think we're good. Hello, everyone. This is Dwight Woods, the Jeet Kune Do Rebel. Welcome to the Jeet Kune Do Dialogues, episode number 83. We will be on in just a second with Bob Landers. Hey, Andrew. Hey, Bill Sang. And I think Mr. Landers is ready. Tech test earlier, so we should be okay on this. Hey, Terry Valor. Who else is here? This is going to be a good one. Hey, Randy, Eric Rodriguez. Okay, cool. All right. Well, I'm glad that you guys are able to hang out with me on a Wednesday.
Let me make sure
Go to
you've got a
your
good.
Mr. Landers.
Well, okay. I want you to be able to see all my books.
All right. Can you hear me?
I can hear you loud and clear. Yep.
No, I don't hear you yet.
You don't? Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
No.
Let me check
All
this.
right. I'll switch. I'll switch headsets. Why does this keep happening?
I can hear you, and I've had conversations on these, so.
Yeah. All right. Stay where you are. Let me just get headset so I hear you better.
Okay.
You okay now?
Yeah, I hear you fine.
All right. Cool. Then this should only be better.
Hear me now?
So many people friend request me after I put up a postcard for a Jeet Kune Do Dialogues episode.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Are you good?
I'm good. I hear you.
Okay, cool. Yeah. Did you hear what I said about how many people friend requested me?
After
I put up the postcard about you.
Well, I told a lot of my people.
Good.
They go, well, how do we get on there? I said, the technology's new, so I just gave them your name.
All right. Okay. All right. You ready to do this?
I'm ready.
Okay. Well, first things first. How's the diet going?
Oh, it's the keto diet,
Right.
so it's meat and eggs and vegetables. So it's going good,
Okay.
but I'm trying to remember what my brother Jeremy Gordon told me. He goes, Bob, I just never think of food. I'm like, wow, that must be great. He's like, yeah, it's just fuel. If I get where I'm hungry, I eat, but I never think about it. And I'm like, shoot, I think about it all the time. So I'm like, I need that type of thinking. He told me that once. I never forgot it.
Right.
And he's like, always been in incredible shape. I just don't even think about food,
Jeremy Gordon is one of your triad JKD brothers?
Yes. We are the triad. We are the three: Jeremy, Rodney, and me.
Yeah. What's the history of the triad JKD?
Well, we were all students and followed Ted Wong, and in it was about 2008 or 9, Ted had a stroke. We'd all worked together, and people were wanting to have the seminar, so I always had Ted in September, and we got together and said, well, Ted can't come this year, so let's just have something. I come up with an idea called Ted Wong, The Next Generation.
Okay.
Where I picked some guys like Rodney and different people, and we did the seminar, and Ted was really happy about that. So he and Al and Joe came out and attended it, even though they didn't teach, because Ted was coming back from a stroke, getting himself back where he wanted to be physically, but he did come. And anyway, make a long story short, this was October of 2010. Mm-hmm. Ted, of course, passed away in November of 2010. We didn't know that he was in the shape he was any of that. But then next year, we kind of got together and did the same thing, because it wasn't, like I said, it was about 5 or 6 of Ted's students that were teaching. And then next year we go, well, let's do that again. So me and Rodney, and we got Jeremy Gordon, Bill Matusi, a bunch of and we did one in Arkansas, and we've just continued to do it. And then we go, well, we need a name for ourselves. We can't call it Bruce Lee's Jeet Kune Do. We can't call it Ted Wong's Jeet Kune Do. We can't, you know how all that is with the copyright. So okay, there's three of us, and we started talking about all the things that come in threes in Jeet Kune Do, like Jeet Kune Do man's three priorities before I studied the art, after I studied the art, now that I, the three things of knowledge, even the biblical, there's a Trinity, there's so many threes. There's, and I think there's Three Stooges, it's rub-a-dub-dub, three men in a tub. You can't get away from it. We go, hey, well, we like that. So we thought it would be ironic. So let's call ourselves the Triads, like the Chinese gangs, but Triad means a group of three. And the more we talked about it, the more we liked it. And we'd be driving down the road at lunch for a seminar. Look, hey, look, the stop signal. It's got three lights, red, green, and yellow. And,
y'all really took this far. What about the three axiomatic principles, right?
There you go. Three.
Yeah.
Simple. Jeet Kune Do is simple, direct, and non-classical.
Right. Yeah.
Now, I can elaborate.
I think you guys are onto something, and I was going to ask you to elaborate on that. Yeah, because that is what. So for those of you who don't know, Mr. Landers and I have become fast friends on Facebook. We've never met in person.
We have, though, and we can talk about that as a footnote.
We did?
In about 1988, 99, you and some of your people came from Miami to Terry Gibson's school for a Dan Inosanto seminar.
You were there?
I was there, and I got a hat from one of your guys that said Unified Fighting Arts. It had a Jeet Kune Do logo and a Kali one. And Guru Dan thought it was funny because I was wearing it, and he knew I was from Tulsa, and that was you guys' hat. He goes, hey, it's got the logo. It's cool. And but I remember that. But I remember Dan would call like you guys and his senior people that were there up and have you do your demonstration. I thought, wow, those guys are really good, and everybody noticed that about you. Your guys. So I do remember that.
Okay. All right.
But we didn't have a big formal meeting or anything.
Right.
But
well, good to make your acquaintance again.
Yeah, it's 30 years
later, yeah. So yeah, okay. So what were you gonna elaborate? The three axiomatic principles.
Yes, and that's just kind of one of my terms, the axiomatic. But when we talk about Jeet Kune Do, and there's been a lot of talk over the years of like Jeet Kune Do concepts. I go, well, what are the concepts? That not the techniques or what is the physical art, but what are the principles?
Right.
And through Ted Wong, and Ted Wong relied on what he learned from Bruce Lee and the writings of Bruce Lee. And Bruce Lee said, and I've got the paper somewhere, I even posted it it says Jeet Kune Do is simplicity, directness, and non-classical.
Yeah.
And non-classical to me is kind of the easiest one to explain, because it just means that you don't do things the way people have done them for year in, year out, just for the heck of it, to respect tradition. You do what you do that's the best way to do something. So if you come up with a better way, you don't stick with, well, we were taught like this, because back in Bruce Lee's days, a lot of people were, no, we can't alter that. We can't mix boxing. We're karate guys, or so that it's kind of it's not as bad anymore. But your classical people were very rigid into this is the law. This is, that. And Bruce was saying, no, you need to be modern, scientific, and base it on reality, not tradition.
Yeah. Ted Wong once said, correct me if I'm wrong. Ted Wong once said that if he had found anybody who could teach it better or express it better than Bruce Lee, he would have studied with them.
Yeah, he said that. I remember once after the fact, he was teaching the front hand lead and Bruce's stuff, and they go, well, why don't you evolve and go on? You're still doing the same thing. He goes, hey, somebody said he was stagnated because he goes, no, I'm not. I'm getting better every year.
Right.
Every day I'm getting better. My punch is faster. It's harder. Ted had titanium knuckles.
Yeah.
He hit titanium for 30 years like this. And Ted could just hit you on the arm like that, and you would feel pain through your whole body. If he just hit somebody with a back fist, it would open their head up. But you look at his hand, you didn't see calluses and all that, but those bones, it's like he had like ball and peen hammer knuckles. And that's just a little example of how he might refine himself versus someone else.
So Okay, so then the contention then would be between people who think that evolving means going away from the original
Yeah.
into other stuff, as opposed to Ted Wong's belief that no, if you found stuff that worked, you kept it and you worked on getting better and better and better at that stuff.
That's another axiomatic principle, refinement. You keep refining and refining and refining. Because you got to hand, how many techniques does boxing have? You know,
I'd say 6.
yeah. You
Yeah.
know, I was going to say 4, but we're on the same page. I mean, they don't go,
Yeah.
okay, we need to have 270 different things to do with the hand.
Right.
And you think if somebody had 200 techniques, you put them in with Muhammad Ali or Mike Tyson, they do good for these guys that have worked those 4, you know, thousand. Like, it's the same principle. But Jeet Kune Do, at the same time, as an arsenal, has everything you need. At least, you know, like we're talking of the stand up, the punching, the kicking, the in close range. I mean, there's nothing that, okay, what about this? It's like, no, because a lot of those punches, you have hybrids to them. That's kind of like you got a shovel hook or different thing. It's not really a hook. It's not really a jab. It's kind of in between. And Ted used to say that there's 3 forces. So whether you're punching and kicking, there are 3 forces. There's a linear force, there's a rotational force, and there's a vertical force. And different techniques have these or parts of them to varying degrees.
Yeah.
Like a front hand lead where you would have a linear force, and it would have a rotational force because you torque the hip at the end of it. But it wouldn't have much of a vertical force, but it would have those 2 forces. Right. A hook would have a rotational force, but at the same time, it would have a horizontal or a rotational force and a linear force, because even a hook is straight at any point that it makes contact. It's the rotation that makes it that. So he looked at, okay, how much force does a front hand lead have, and how much of this kind and that kind that covers every angles, and he discovered that there's that term 3 forces, but he used that to analyze his techniques to improve it, and that's how he refined, not looking for something new.
And he was an engineer. He was a mechanical engineer. Was he?
He was like a chemical engineer, physicist. He worked at a chemical. I mean, he worked at a steel place in California called Kaiser. It's a big company back then, and he worked in the lab where he broke down metals and looked at the gases in them, stuff we can't even fathom even exists. You know what I mean? Yeah. So when Shannon Lee said, and I'll never forget, this is my favorite statement about Ted. She says that because he was her Sifu in Jeet Kune Do.
Yeah.
And Shannon said that Ted Wong's understanding of Jeet Kune Do is at a molecular level. It's like, hey, some of us guys see a punch and go, okay, that's a punch, that's a kick, that's a rotate. And Ted's seeing how many degrees in that axis are turning and what rate it's accelerating here and where the breakover of that acceleration is. I mean, it's just, you know, I mean, he couldn't.
But how many people do you think were or are aware of his molecular level understanding of Jeet Kune Do?
I think that people that maybe have a long range history of martial artists, and they can, I mean, anybody can do a front hand lead, or anybody can do a hook kick. But when you see Ted Wong do it, and anybody can shadow box, but I'm saying when you see Ted Wong do it, it's like watching, I don't know, Muhammad Ali versus watching a local AAU boxer. It's just the level, but you can't tell what he's doing because there's a whole inner stuff. And Ted used the analogy, and we're still kind of on the 3 axiomatic principles, but Ted's big one was simplicity. And he said simplicity is that point where the maximum effort or the maximum result and the minimal effort meet. You don't overkill, you don't under, it's just You can do too little, too much, but simplicity. And he said, simple is not easy. And he said,
Right.
he told me once, I got a book on calculus here. He goes, Bob, he says, calculus is the simplest way to do what it can do. You can't do it with other things. Maybe algebra, you could do it, but you would need 10 pages. On calculus, you could do it in 5 steps. He said, but if you don't understand calculus, that don't help you.
Right.
So calculus is very simple.
Yeah.
But he said, the simple is not easy.
Yeah.
He
that's
said
funny.
that simple's not easy, and that's kind of what he was getting at. Just because you say Jeet Kune Do is simple, that doesn't mean any Tom, Dick, Joey, Hush Corgi can do it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It means that, no, just because it's simple, that just means it's maximum effort, minimum result, and it attains these levels in order, like, well, a lot of the earlier stuff where you would throw a jab out or somebody throw a punch at you and you kind of block, create an attachment and you pox sow. It's like, well, Ted didn't even mess with that. You threw a punch at him when it's about this close to him. He started his punch, his body followed his hand, and he corkscrew hit you at an angle while you're still thinking he's over there.
Right.
And he didn't go 1, 2, 3.
Right.
But if you're somewhat a novice, you might be able to pull that off and not be able to do it. So you had to put in the time and hours
Right.
to develop those skills. And
Yeah.
that's what Ted did. And that's the same thing Bruce Lee did. But Ted, you say, if you want to achieve Bruce Lee-like results, you got to put in Bruce Lee-like hours.
Right. Yeah.
You can't work out 30 minutes a week and go, that don't work for me. I'm going to try something else.
Yeah. Hey, who's that barking in the back? Is that the upside down dog?
He's not upside down now, but that's him.
Okay. Because
Yeah.
you just sent me that picture.
Yeah, he was looking at you. It's like,
Yeah. Hey, can you show everybody what shirt you're wearing? And I want to see if I have that one.
it's one of Shannon's specialties, but I really like the colors on it.
Wow.
See, it's one of the rooftop ones. Is that not a cool one?
That's very cool. Yeah. So for those of you who you got to go on. You have 2 Facebook pages, right? You got like a personal page and then the Bob Landers Jeet Kune Do page.
Yeah, because a lot of my friends don't know what Jeet Kune Do is, so if I talk about it all the time and vice versa.
Yeah. Okay. Well, you guys got to go on there and see some pictures of his collection. I mean, it's stupid good.
Yeah, and I'm a moderate collector.
Yeah.
I know people. We know people.
We know people. Yeah.
That for them, Bruce Lee is a mental illness. When you got 279 versions of the Tao of Jeet Kune Do in 500 different languages that you can only read English, but you're going to have like 1,000 different copies of the Tao. That's a little ill. I've got 3 or 4 copies of them.
No, I got to admit, I would do that too. So I got that same mental illness. I really would.
You want 1,000 of them?
If well, I think it has to do with me. I need at least 2 of everything.
Yeah.
That's where my mental illness starts.
It should be 3 to stick with our number.
Okay.
Okay. Have you ever noticed that in your martial arts that good things come in 3, even your 6 count, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. It's not 1, 2, 1, 2, or 1, 2, 4, 1. Not even though there are those, but it's like your hand, foot, hand, foot.
Yep.
Things, jab, cross, hook.
Yep.
3s work good. It's a good rhythm. It even has a good rhythm to it.
Well, that's why for some of us there is that connection, right, between that element of 3 that we might find in Kali and then that element of 3 in JKD as well, right? But I want to ask you, in '89 when we met, what were you doing there? What stage of your JKD journey was that?
Okay, I had a trinity at that time. There's 3 again. My trinity had Bruce Lee, Danny Inosanto, and Terry Gibson. That was my trinity at that time. Okay. So I just was the guy that wanted to learn Jeet Kune Do, and then I found out, hey, I got a guy here in Tulsa, Oklahoma, that's a student of and instructor under Dan Inosanto. And of course, nobody was really teaching as far as Bruce Lee's original students back then. Dan Inosanto was the guy
Right.
everybody knew. And I mean, he's still like the number one as far as everybody know about. I mean, but back then it's like, okay, there's nobody else. Nobody knew who all these other guys that come out of the woodwork later that had coffee with Bruce Lee or something and now are offering certificates for $1,000. You know, the kind of guys, you know, how you just come to California and we'll hang out and pet my little poodle and I'll give you a certificate and you go back home. And but you know what I'm saying? There were none of those guys were there. It was Daniel Santo, and that's, you know, because at the time I was just following that. Okay, I need to learn Kali, Pencak Silat, the different stuff I was going through. And Terry Gibson, for example, every Daniel Santo student's different. So, but he's the guy I had the most time with. Now, he did not particularly care for the Jun Fan arts.
Right.
He, not saying he didn't like, but he was more like he said he went to Dan originally to learn Kali because he was a hot keto guy. He said he was interested in the weaponry. Somebody told him, well, you should check out Daniel Santo. And then through that, he was a Taekwondo guy. He got into the Thai boxing, but the Jun Fan stuff, just for whatever reason, wasn't that big of a deal to him. But that's what I wanted to learn. I didn't care about the other stuff.
Right.
So
I got it.
That's what. But at the time, every time in the seminar, whether it's Dan, Master Chai, Paul Dutois, Paul Vunak, you know, he brought all. I was right down there like, oh boy. I mean, that's why I was there.
Yeah.
I wanted to learn Jeet Kune Do, and that's just where I was at that time doing it.
Right. Yeah. I mean, so I know there's a guy who looks a lot like you, right?
Oh.
Yeah. There's a guy who looks a lot.
Not as handsome though, right? Just maybe some of the same.
No. He's from Alabama, right?
Oh, that isn't the Alabama Dragon, is it?
He looks a lot like, but if I remember it correctly, the first time that he encountered Inosanto, he was not that happy because he didn't get what he expected to get from a JKD instructor.
Yeah.
Right? It was more along the lines of Filipino Kali or Pencak Silat or what have you. So did you have that kind of a realization or that kind of a change of opinion later on?
Well, what happened to me initially is I just accepted, or I come in with the position that, you know, because I'd done a lot of study and like kickboxing and Taekwondo, my black belt, and I'd done my own independent study of what Bruce Lee did to the degree you could without a Sifu that knew.
Right. Yeah.
And it's always my goal. Hey, Daniel Santo, get with Daniel Santo. And so I didn't think that initially, but I thought, well, why are we doing stuff in the left lead? Why are we doing this takedown stuff? Why are we doing this? And it's like, hey, you know, this is all part of the process. You're learning the Jeet Kune Do because the concept, it's not a system. It's I'm like, okay, you know, I'm not going to debate with these. You know, I'm okay. I want to get there.
Right.
So they were like, I'd never even heard of the Jun Fan martial arts or Jun Fan Kung Fu or Jun Fan kickboxing as far as any of Bruce Lee's nuts. But I thought, okay, well, there's all these Jun Fan arts. Then Jeet Kune Do's a concept, but they never really clarified what the concepts were. You know, like they just said Jeet Kune Do is just a conceptual thing that's like the overruling principle of these different systems. And so I thought, you know, okay, because I see some, I guess you could say validity in what they're saying, that Bruce Lee was like, you know, you're a free and creative martial artist. You got 2 hands, 2 feet. So you can see from a conceptual level, it's like, you know, don't get all hung up on these techniques. But there was still at the same time a specific body of work that I wanted to learn, whether it was outdated or whatever, that I wasn't getting there. And I wouldn't say that it was because Dan wasn't teaching it. Now, he wasn't at the seminars I went to, but most of those were Terry Gibson. And he was like, well, what do you want us to cover? Yeah. Kali, this, how about Jun Fan? No, sir.
Yeah.
You know, so I'm like, oh, hey, come on. But I'm just saying, so I'm not saying anything negative. I'm just saying that I didn't see a lot of that.
Right.
And that's really what I wanted. But I at some point, and I got a little disenchanted with the political hierarchy in that particular school and some of the stuff. And like, okay, you couldn't talk to Dan. You had to talk to this person or this person. That's like, and then I called my friend Taki Kimura up. who I'd become
Okay.
friends with, that would just, hey, you call him up in Seattle. Probably one of the greatest guys in the Bruce Lee world, Taki Kamura. Really a nice guy. It's like 1992. I'm calling this poor old guy up at work, bugging him. He's sitting there at the grocery store with a meeting. He goes, no, I'll put my meeting on hold. This guy wants to talk about Bruce, so I'm going to take my time. I mean, that's just
Lovely.
that's Taki Kamura.
Yeah.
You know, you guys hold on, take a break. I'm going to talk to this guy about Bruce, and I'd say, hey, you know, I'm wanting to learn this stuff. Can I come up there and learn with you and talk? He's like, oh no, I got very limited knowledge, but I mean, if you want to come up, we could visit, which I did, and he took me to dinner, spent a whole day or two with me. I mean, great guy. There's just
That's
not a better human being.
Yeah.
And there's nothing phony about that guy. You know, he's just like, he goes, well, you tell Dan that I told him to talk to you and just talk to Dan like you're talking to me. I go, well, you know, he goes, well, you know, because he said with Dan this, and about that time, you know, Ted Wong was starting to come out.
Right.
And I'm like, well, you know, this is the guy that was there with Dan Inosanto. You're looking at fighting methods, this, and hey, he's got a certificate in Jeet Kune Do too. He's doing this. So I sent a letter to everybody under the sun: Black Belt, Inside Kung Fu, Richard Bustillo, Ted Wong, care of. And I'd all but forgot about it. One night I got this guy called me in broken English. Said, oh, hello, Mr. Landa. I'm like, you know, this Ted Wong, I get your letter. I'm like, oh, you know, it's like, I could barely understand him.
Yeah.
You want to talk about the Bruce Lee martial art? I give you a call. So we talked. I was like, wow, you know, I'm like, let me put, you know, I mean, I was just shocked. And that's where it all started, you know.
What year was that? Do you remember?
That was about 1992, when I was kind of getting away from the concept, wanting to learn just what, and you know, Jerry Poteet was coming out too. And I saw some of his stuff, and I just really wasn't too impressed with it from just the visual of, you know, those tapes, those 5 tapes that come out. But I was trying to talk to him too. Right. But he was busy working on Dragon, the Bruce Lee story at the time. So he's like, no, he's too busy. He's going to go into movies and all that. So it's like, and I got a funny story on there if you want to know why Jerry Poteet was the choreographer for Dragon instead of Ted Wong. There's a really funny story that says a lot about humanity in it. So we can talk. I mean, it isn't really a bad reflection on Jerry or anything, but it's really a funny story. I'll just talk to you since I introduced it. Okay. It's not a real long one.
No, you can't tease us like that. You got to go with it.
Right. Okay. Well, it's funny to me because you know how people think, well, the more you pay, the better something.
Well, yeah, and I should tell people that your sense of humor is not necessarily the same as everybody else's. Huh?
Right. Well, but this is to me is funny because Jason Scott Lee, they talked to Linda Lee about we want to make it, you know, get some of Bruce's original art in here. And, you know, I think she may have said, well, how about Dan? Well, Dan's busy, you know, he's out of, you know, or, well, how about Ted Wong? So Jason, here's some other names. So anyway, Jason Scott Lee got in touch with Ted Wong. You know, okay, you come over to my house, you know, this, that, and Jason Scott Lee come over there. Ted just kind of said, okay, get in your stance. What's a stance? Okay, spread your legs apart, this your stance. Okay, step forward. Okay, looking at his feet. Okay, so just work with him a little bit on that. He goes, okay, this is cool. How much am I going to have to pay you for all this? Oh, no, you don't have to pay me anything. I help you just to, you know, for the good of Bruce Lee. He goes, no, they're giving me this budget for this. I need to pay you. And all this. So, no, don't worry about it. Just, you know, you come over each day, we work on it. We start you out here. And it was, well, I got it. No, don't worry about it. So Jason Scott Lee went home or whatever. I don't know if he came back or not, but he thought, man, that guy can't be too good if he's doing this for free. So he gave Jerry Poteet a call, and it's like, now I don't know the numbers, but probably, well, you can pay me $5,000 a week, and I'll teach you Pak Sao. He goes, oh boy, I found a teacher. You know, and that's how it ended up happening. Yeah. He goes, you know, this other guy doesn't value his teaching because he didn't want to charge me.
That is, but you know, that is true. There are a lot of people who don't cannot realize the gift that they're being given if there's no financial exchange.
Yeah, and
Right?
the more it is, the better it's got to be.
Yeah. Well, hey, it's Hollywood, man.
Well, I had some Doberman Pinscher pups that were full-blooded. I had this stuff on them and everything, but I didn't want to sell them because I just wanted them to quit pooping on my floor and get them out of my hair. You know what I mean? They were fully clipped, everything, Doberman Pinschers. Put an ad, free Doberman Pinschers. Nobody called. And I'm like, and somebody says, well, charge $100, $150 for them.
Right.
Put the same ad in, and they were gone in a day.
Yes.
But I didn't get a response.
Yeah.
No. So
it's true, right? Okay. So here's another thing I want to tell people. Mr. Landers and I talked beforehand, and I said that one of the things I wanted to do was to repeat to him some of the stuff that I've taken off Facebook or online. Right? And then he's gonna, if we need to elaborate on it, we'll elaborate. If he needs to clarify it, we'll clarify it, right? So you tell me when you're ready. And
this is the scary part because not everybody gets my sense of humor, but I'll try.
Okay.
So
wait, let me get a good one. I'll get one that included Jimmy Strickland. Tell everybody who Jimmy Strickland is.
Jimmy Strickland is a long-time follower, student of Ted Wong, Joe Louis, different guys from down there in the South, down in Joe Louis' neck of the woods. And he's, he's a big Bruce Lee fan. We're just kind of have that in common. We talk about it, know all the same people and stuff. So he's a guy that I've befriended on Facebook, but he's got pictures. He's went to the same places. We've never been at the same place at the same time, but
okay. But you are a Joe Louis representative also, aren't you?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes. Prior to Joe's, after Ted passed, started training more with Joe because, I felt lost and I didn't really want to do it like when Ted was alive, because Ted was kind of that traditional Chinese, kind of like Bruce Lee was. You don't have 20 Sifus. You only have one. It means father and skill. You can't have 20 fathers.
Yeah.
So I'm like, well, so anyway. Yeah, and at some point, me and Jeremy Gordon were both kind of pursuing him, and Jeremy had actually completed his black belt under him, and we were both made, official Joe Louis trainers or coaches or schools under him.
Okay.
So I've got that credential.
Hey, let's see if we know some of the same people. Do you know John Graydon? Do you know who that is?
Yes, know him personally.
Okay.
There's three of them. So John's the businessman one, right? Tony Robbins.
There's John, there's Mark,
Jim,
and Jim. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I know all three of them too.
Yeah, I don't know him super well, but I've dealt with John quite a bit because he sent me a bunch of videos when Joe was sick, and I kind of sold him to bring up money to help with Joe's treatment and stuff. Yeah. So, but he was John Graydon's a great fighter in his day. I've seen old footage of him and Joe Louis training and sparring. I'm like, man, because you look at him now, he's older, and he's like, that guy. You look at that old film of him and Joe Louis, you're like, wow, that guy was good.
I have nothing but good stuff to say about him because he was actually instrumental in my initial understanding of what it took to be a competent martial art businessman. Yeah. I definitely owe a portion of that to him. All right, so the portrayal of Bruce Lee in Once Upon a Time in America is causing a meltdown among the Bruce Lee people, much like the Trump presidency.
Oh, you know what? Yeah, the Trump presidency caused a meltdown of the Democrats. You got them and all this, and Trump, So, I mean, I'm not saying whether you're pro-Trump or not. I'm just saying that he's caused a meltdown amongst them. I had one guy leave my page for saying that, this was fine until you brought up the politics. I go, I'm just comparing the analogy. Because these people are going nuts. They, ever since he got in, I mean, they're just, but that's not the point. The point is everybody that's seen
Once Upon a Time,
me and maybe two other Bruce Lee people like it to every 10,000 that hate it.
Okay.
So I didn't know that when I said that, until I started hearing some of this stuff, like the Shannon Lee didn't like it. Dan had something to say about it, just basically, and just anybody. I've met very few or talked to very few people that liked it.
Right. Well,
And-
you know what? I like it more after having seen it and after having done the research on Tarantino's train of thought and all the stuff that he put into making it. I
Yeah.
now have a greater appreciation for it than when I was in the cinema watching it.
Yeah.
Right.
Well,
And the thing
something
is,
else.
by
Go
the
ahead.
end, by the final scene, right? So no spoilers here, but by the time they break into the house to
Yeah.
commit the murders, were you even thinking about the Bruce Lee scene way back 2 hours before?
No. I that was like, you could have made that movie without the Bruce Lee scene. It didn't
Yes.
really contribute anything.
Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
as far as to the plot.
Yes.
And my mind was blown when they broke into the house, because I kept thinking it was going to go one way, and I'm like, wait a minute, and then that gives you kind of a context to the whole thing. It's like an alternative universe or a parallel. But
Yeah.
you know what occurred to me, and I know you've heard this story too, and it's not out of the realm of the possible, because Gene LaBelle was the stuntman on the Green Hornet. Now,
Yes.
Tarantino knows this stuff. Well, there was a time, this is rumored, but I've heard it from a number of people, including Gene LaBelle, that on the set, Bruce was doing his stuff. And, Bruce was a cocky guy. Now, whether he said he could do this, I mean, you just see it in his way. He is that's one of the things that makes him Bruce Lee, and we admire.
Right. Yeah.
It's not a bad thing, because he's confident and he comes across. It's like, but so you could see him being a little bit like that back in the 60s, and he encounters stuntman Gene LaBelle. And this is what I heard related to Tarantino, because Gene LaBelle, and I know you've heard this story, whether it's true or not, we may never know, but supposedly Gene LaBelle got a hold of Bruce, tied him up, and Bruce was screaming and let him loose like this, and he put Bruce in a trash can. Now, have you ever trained with Gene LaBelle?
No.
But have you ever heard from people that have, and
Yes.
his reputation?
Yes.
Now, would you consider it impossible for him maybe to, for whatever reason, get the break on Bruce when he's not looking, get him tied up and do that? It's not out of the realm of the possible.
Not at all.
This thing. So
Not at all.
you hear that, and that's kind of how I saw this stuntman as like a composite character that might have had a little of the Gene
Right.
LaBelle scenario, the Bruce Lee cockiness. I like the way he says, when he says Joe Louis, he goes, I mean the boxer, not the white asshole karate guy. It's like, so he even managed to slam Joe Louis in there.
Yeah.
I thought that was hilarious.
I'll tell you something. I think I was a little bit more upset about that, right, than about the Bruce Lee thing, right? Because we know who we know who Bruce is. And like I said, I think I did it last week or the week before. I'm not
Yeah.
Shannon Lee, so the effect on me is not going to be the same.
Yeah.
Right, and I'm not Diana Inosanto, who works in the film industry and has Quentin Tarantino as a role model. So
Yeah.
I 100% understand the effect that it would have on them, right? So
Yeah.
okay, I don't know if you said this but I'm pretty sure it was associated with you. It was so it's a picture of Bruce Lee crescent kicking Dan Inosanto, and the
Yeah.
caption says, Bruce Lee and Dan Inosanto are both one-of-a-kind martial artists, but they are polar opposites. And
Right.
it's a quote. So it's not you who said that. Somebody
No,
else said that?
it's not me, and I don't know that I wanted to really, but I'll tell you what, Ted Wong said that,
Okay.
and he didn't necessarily mean it as a positive thing, but I'll just tell you, like, because he knew Dan, he knew Bruce, and just his opinion. It's like, Dan Inosanto, and this is just Dan, so let's not say whether it's right or wrong, and Ted's just Ted.
Mhm.
Ted takes one art that he learned from Bruce Lee and has spent his whole life working on that,
Right.
and
Yeah.
that to him's the way. Dan, on the other hand, has studied, I don't know, maybe 100 different arts, and still does forever and ever. And Ted told me once, I don't mean to offend, but he said that Bruce told him Dan's still searching. He's still searching, because he was, when he was training with Bruce, he was also training with that Ark Wong in a classical kung fu. And Dan told this story. He said Bruce would go and roll his eyes. What are you doing? And you know, mess him. And he was training in the different things like that. And that's just who he is. It's not a bad thing, but most martial artists are not like that. Mm-hmm. They learn an art or two, they devote it for life. Whereas Dan is the only guy that's like, and even Ted said he's like an encyclopedia. You can ask him about, he knows stuff from every martial art, everything in the world, and he's a historian, you know. Right. He's a history guy, so he's coming at it from a different place. So that's what he's saying. But Bruce Lee was more like less, refined. And so they're both, there's not another one like either one of them, but they're not necessarily like two of a kind.
So you think, do you think then that is an issue in the concepts approach, that there is no focus on refinement?
Yeah, if you're constantly, because Ted says you learn it, then you refine it. If you're constantly learn something new, you never get to that point of refinement.
You mean as opposed to learn it today, teach it tomorrow?
Yeah, that's a Ted quote. You know, he used to also, they call it Jeet Kune Do. He says like, you go to McDonald's, you order a hamburger, they give you a hot dog, but they still call it hamburger. You know. So I told Ted one time, we were in Tulsa going to get lunch at a seminar, and we went to this Coney Islander store. You know, that's really good. It makes the hot dogs with the chili cheese and onions and all that. Like, these guys are out of Coney Island, New York. I said, Ted, we're going to go have some Dan Inosanto hamburgers for lunch. He kind of looks at me in that blank Chinese face. And so I take him the hot dog jar. He goes, what? The hot dog? I said, yeah, but you say you order a hamburger, they give you a hot dog. I do the same thing. So I go, what do you got there? He goes, I got the Dan Inosanto hot dog. So, I mean, I can laugh at that, and I have respect for Dan Inosanto.
Yeah, well, I mean,
so I'm just laughing at Ted.
Yeah, no, I'll get it. I'll probably get in trouble for laughing at it too. But this is, you see,
we're all humans, you know.
Right, and it goes back somewhat to the Tarantino thing. We know who the real Bruce Lee was. We know beyond the shadow of a doubt. So if a guy does a fictional portrayal of Bruce Lee, either we find it funny or we don't find it funny, but it's not the end of the world.
Yeah, you got to understand it in the context of Tarantino.
Yes.
You know, and let me ask you this while we're on this, and I don't want to, you know, I may offend somebody with this one, but let's think about this. Dragon, the Bruce Lee story, had the full blessing and endorsement of Linda Lee. There's a 30-episode Bruce Lee series that came out in China that Shannon Lee was the executive producer of. Those are so far removed from the reality of Bruce Lee. So is it okay to be dishonest with him in a positive way, but not okay to be dishonest with him in a negative way? Is dishonesty kind of circumstantial based on, hey, we're portraying him as a flawless god here that was in a wheelchair that got kicked. Now it's like, okay, you know, and then he goes and fights at the Long Beach thing in the demo. You go, okay, look, he did a 1-inch punch and some things. There was no 60-second, but they said, like one guy said, there was a student, Bruce Lee, said about the only true things in Dragon were there was a guy named Bruce Lee that married a woman named Linda that was a martial artist.
Right.
And made a movie called Enter the Dragon.
Yeah.
So
no, I remember, you know, rushing to the defense of the real Bruce Lee when Dragon came out, letting my students know that he never, you know, behaved that way, and that the whole kick, you know, in the back was not a real thing. So yeah, I mean, but what the heck?
But they get bent out of shape if he's misrepresented here. But it's like,
what's the thing about? Did I read something about T-shirt prices going up?
That's
around the same time.
Yeah, I was complaining about Roots of Fight because their $40 shirts are now $48. And I said, that's a 20% increase. I said, they're already outrageous. This isn't Shannon. This is Roots of Fight. Right. And I talked to their little talking head on the computer. I go, hey, people aren't going to pay $50. I've got $3,000 worth of your stuff, but you broke the thing where you go, okay, we got free shipping. I go, big flipping deal. I get something in 2 weeks in an envelope for 99 cents, and I got to pay 20% more for everything.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
You know?
interesting. Yeah. There's one of their shirts. I've never bought any of their shirts. And I'll tell you why. You know the one with Bruce Lee doing the sidekick and Muhammad Ali snapping back?
You know, interestingly enough, that is not a Roots of Fight shirt, but they
It
do
isn't?
have one. No, that one isn't, but the Roots of Fight one has the one where Bruce is like this, you know, with his hand,
Okay.
and
From
Ali's
Enter the
like
Dragon.
that. Yeah. So they do have one. It's just a
Oh,
different.
okay.
And I
won't
have
buy.
them both.
I won't. You have no scruples.
It's, you wouldn't believe, if I wear that shirt out, how many comments I get and people that like that, and the topic that comes up about Bruce Lee and Ali, whether that shirt's authentic or not.
Yeah. No. So
You know.
so you know who
What's
else?
your issue with it? What's your issue with that shirt?
It's just it's stupid. It's sacrilegiously stupid or stupidly sacrilegious.
Is that
And it's not even a good Photoshop. You can tell
Yeah.
that they're you know who else will not wear that shirt?
Who's that?
The guy that looks like you from Alabama.
Why does he got to look like me? His head looks like you know, looks like a watermelon. Mine's all aerodynamic and smooth. You know what I mean? I'm a good-looking guy. You know?
All right.
And plus, my IQ's not 173 like his. You know, I'm just like an engineer and all that, but my IQ's not 173.
Okay. All right.
Anyway.
Okay. So here's another one. I'm seeing a lot of cult-like behavior and pathology in New Age Jeet Kune Do people.
Yeah.
What the heck is New Age Jeet Kune Do people?
Well, I'm an old man.
Okay.
So I'm thinking that I come up when Bruce Lee was actually alive, even though I didn't train with him. And I trained with the student of Bruce Lee, just like a lot of us did. But
Yeah.
I found myself the other day debating with people about what Jeet Kune Do was or wasn't because of something I took, an issue I took with something, not a person, but some of the stuff that was going on. And they were just like, blah, 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 blah. It's like getting attacked. I go, I'm arguing with fifth generation people that have been training, you know, a short period of time over topics I was debating 30 years ago that I've researched, looked into, and they're telling me the same stuff I heard 30 years ago. So I'm just, it's almost
That's
like,
it, yeah. You know, I never thought of it that way. Bruce Lee died 46 years ago.
yeah,
So a 30-something-year-old person, a 30-something-year-old JKD person, was born 16 years after Bruce Lee passed away.
yeah.
Right?
They were doing the old yellow stuff in the diapers back when you and I were doing the 6 count.
Yeah.
You know, and then they're going. So that's what I'm saying. But I've seen some of these people that they do an impressive demo. You know what I mean? Now that doesn't mean there's any substance to it. It's just, oh, look how fast this guy is. Oh, look how this. And these people, to me, are real impressionable because you can watch Joe Louis or Muhammad Ali shadow box, they wouldn't be impressed. But if this guy gets out and does the stick thing or these self-defense things or stuff, they're like, oh my God. And they've like followed this guy like, oh, Sifu this said that. It's almost, that's what I say, it's almost a sickness that they're so blinded and taken in by these. They go, okay, we got to, you know, like I said, that's one thing. It's like, you know, if you got Jeet Kune Do for black belts, well, you know, the black belts I know, they're like John Graydon, the Joe Louis fighting black belts.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, what's somebody that's got no fighting record that's doing this going to go teach these guys? You know, when you say I got something for the black belts to take them to a higher level, it's like.
But but you know what? It's, I mean, I don't mean to bring up the political thing either, but it really is a generational thing.
Yeah.
And I like the younger generation people whose hearts are in the right place because they're not closed-minded. But what it means is that in order for somebody from the older generation to get them to listen, you really got to know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, and you know, some of this stuff, it's like, and I've run into people like you can talk to about stuff, and it's like, hey, you know, I I have no problem with somebody disagreeing with me,
Mm-hmm.
or because I don't think that I'm 100% right. Maybe
Mm-hmm.
97%, but there's some error in there. No, but you know what I'm saying? I don't think I'm 100% right, and I don't think they're 100% wrong. So as long as somebody, it's same with politics. If somebody
Yeah.
treats me with respect, I'm going to treat them with respect, and we can have a conversation. It's just like Jeet Kune Do Concepts, original Jeet Kune Do. You know, some of Ted's best friends were like Richard Bustillo. That was just, you know, full blood, totally different approach to it, but they got along. They just
Right.
friends, respect,
Yeah. Well,
and so.
but that's the thing, right? I mean, it's like Harinder Singh said last week when I spoke to him. He said, "We're all branches of the same Jeet Kune Do tree."
Yeah.
You know, so he's not wrong. He's not wrong about that at all.
Yeah.
And I actually, so that was one of the things. Then this is a direct quote of yours, I'm pretty sure.
Oh.
Then there's the Teflon like, not wanting to offend anybody, friend to everyone.
Yeah.
Okay. I think that's me.
No, that wasn't directed at you.
No. I read it
Okay.
and I thought, I think that's me. Because I really don't want to offend anybody.
Yeah. Well, I don't want to offend people as far as just piss them off for the fun of it. Now, I have been that guy before, but I'm getting older and I'm pretty good at it too.
You are.
Ted Wong said, Linda Lee called me, you'll say somebody's Jeet Kune Do book is shit. He goes, I know it's shit, but you don't say that. You don't say that on the internet. You stay off the internet. I go, but you drew a picture in it and showed what was wrong. He goes, I know it's shit, but you don't say that.
Right. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
He said, you know, okay, I won't say anything.
But he's not from Oklahoma.
Right.
Right.
But that has nothing to do with it. I'm beyond Oklahoma. You know, you can't limiting to me like Oklahoma's.
Oh,
like,
I'm sorry.
well,
Okay.
I'm a universal mind kind of guy. But I want to say something about that
Yeah.
what you were saying about Singh. Now, I don't know him, and I've not really seen a whole lot, so I have no issue with him, and I think I may have made those guys think that. But you know, some like when I was saying him saying different branches of the different tree, and all I saw was a preview of the thing. I didn't see the full thing, and the guys, well, you didn't see this. I'm going, you know, it occurred to me today. Let's just say that Bruce is our dad. This is kind of like what Singh said, and then you got four brothers. Let's just say you got Taki, Kimura, and Dan. Then you got Alan, Joe, and Ted. Well, Alan and Taki get along with everybody. Now, Dan and Ted, Dan and Taki were really close. Ted and Alan were real close. But Ted and Dan were not close after Bruce's, or even during, you know, and after, or never have been. But they're all the same, have the same father. So it's kind of like you could be a son of Dan's. I'm a son of Ted's. You and I can get along, even if Papa's have different views or this, that. It's kind of like I say, all the same branches, the same tree, or kind of a fun, dysfunctional family.
But that's the thing. And I remember my initial discovery that the JKD family was dysfunctional. It was kind of a letdown, you know, but then it was kind of a letdown.
Why is that? Because the Joe Louis people aren't like that. I mean, you don't have like John Graydon doesn't have like 290 different versions of Joe Louis's, you know, or anything.
Well, because Joe Louis was in charge.
Yeah, but I think it's that Bruce Lee icon pulls people in for that attachment to that, and that's where they are throughout it all. Versus somebody goes, okay, I want to be a serious martial artist and learn a really good martial artist, so I'm gonna go into this. You know what I mean? People go. A lot of people go into it from that. I'm going to be connected to this mythical deceased celebrity.
Oh, there's definitely that. There's definitely that. I mean, and to me, it's funny that it sometimes comes from a lot of people who don't even train.
Well, that's the collectors are the weirdest breed. The martial arts are one thing. The collectors like, I got a picture of Bruce you don't have, and you can't have it. And I'll have it buried with me in my coffin. You know, and it's like, if I got a picture here, I'll send you the file. I don't care.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Do you know what Quora is?
No.
Okay. It's a question and answer thing. And I'm on there sometimes. answering martial arts stuff. And so how would you answer this question?
Okay.
What would Bruce Lee be doing today at age 79?
And I talked to Ted about this, not so much 79, but just, and he said, he probably, would look into some of the grappling and stuff. That wasn't, he says, but for Bruce Lee, weighed 125, 30 pounds, he didn't really, that wasn't his ideal way to handle stuff. But he says, he knew the different stuff. He says he didn't think he'd change that much. He just keep refining and this, that, because you still got 2 arms, 2 legs. A lot of people are right now coming around to what Bruce Lee was doing in the 60s and 70s, and they're labeled state-of-the-art people.
Mm-hmm.
Just like Tulsa, Oklahoma, for example. Probably the same thing in Alabama, too. Back in the 70s, you'd probably want to go work out. There's one gym. It's the YMCA.
Right.
Now there's one on every block, and everybody's thinking, I got to get my cardio. I got to get my abs. I've got to get my... Yeah, it's like Bruce Lee was doing that back in '69 when everybody's driving Mustangs with pot bellies.
Yeah.
And they think, well, we're on to something here with it. It's like you look at Bruce Lee or Joe Louis's physiques back then. Nobody had physiques like that during those days.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's like everybody's wanting to look like that.
Mm-hmm.
So people are just now catching up to where Bruce Lee was 40 years ago.
When they talk about Bruce Lee and grappling, sometimes I tell them, well, look, if you want to see if he had an understanding of grappling maneuvers, look at the fight scene with the Hapkido guy in Game of Death.
Yeah.
Right? The way he moves, you can't tell me that he did. I mean, yeah, had he lived and gone, because then there's that thing, if he'd lived, he definitely would have looked into the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, right? Okay, that's a good supposition. But look at him move on the ground.
Yeah.
But what I think you're seeing is, and now you got to tell everybody about this. I think what we're seeing in that fight scene is the anti-grappling system.
Yeah, he wasn't like, and that's what Ted says. You go into somebody that's a world-class grappler, you go, okay, I'm going to study grappling 3 months, and that's when I'm going to go grappling. When Joe Louis was the same way. He says, you don't try and outspeed somebody that hits fast. You don't try and punch somebody that hits hard. You don't try and out kick a good. Joe Louis used to talk about, the critiquing sparring and how you immediately pick up upon what is that guy's strength.
Right.
And what is my strength and how can I negate his strength and subject him to my strength in this. You don't want to go, okay, you're a great puncher, I'm going to trade licks with you.
Right.
And that's one of the issues with is this learn everybody's system, learn all that. I go, well, they've devoted a whole lifetime to it. What do I want to train in it part-time and try and fight them according to that? I want to make them fight according to my game.
Yeah.
Is so kind of what I got that.
Can you tell us more? Because I just got the 20% power remaining thing. So that means we're gonna have like 15 minutes left. Can you tell us about the anti-grappling system that Ted Martin?
Yes. And the thing about Ted, he was very specific about if he taught you something that was not Bruce Lee stuff, which this anti-grappling was not.
Yeah.
He would tell you that. Work on it. It's good stuff. We're his students. So, hey, I'm going to, but I don't know that he used the term anti-grappling, but it just kind of stuck. But he had stuff like, and he'd worked on it with his son, who was a wrestler, and different people say, do a double leg takedown on me or do a single leg. And he'd do this where he'd drop down. He said, and he knew if they can't get under you, they can't drop you.
Mm-hmm.
So you really want to just expend the amount of time you spend standing up,
right?
Not let them get you. Because as long as you're standing up, you can hit them. You have the chance to do that. And he had things like, you grab their waists when they get down there and you control them with their waist. And he had this drop your center of gravity. And he would do this retreating punch like Muhammad Ali'd do, where you'd hit and then shuffle back and you'd transfer your weight forward as you're going back, then you'd back up.
Mm-hmm.
So he did these kind of things that, no, I'm not going to say, let's do this. It's like, let's do some counters again. And he had people that were wrestlers and grapplers at seminars try and take him down.
Yeah.
And they couldn't do it,
yeah.
because of this. And I think that's where partner Rodney got the idea from, because he was teaching a bunch of MMA fighters at that time, and he was teaching them purely the Jeet Kune Do. I won't say purely, but he was teaching the Jeet Kune Do of Ted Wong. They said, hey, all these fights are MMA. So he got to grapple, but most of these people are good. So Rodney kind of, because Ted, I'd say maybe didn't complete that, but he's been working on it. Or maybe, you're not going to see everything somebody knows anyway. So, but Rodney took that idea of like, okay, we're not going to become great grapplers to beat people at grappling. We're going to become great counter grapplers.
Right.
And that's where Rodney, when we have our seminars each year, teaches on, he calls it non-classical grappling. Kind of like Jesse Glover's non-classical.
Right.
He calls it non-classical grappling. But at the same time, his guys, and he works with a Brazilian jiu-jitsu guy that's like a black belt, and they work with these guys, and over the period of time, they've gotten to be good grapplers.
Yeah.
With this stuff. But it's not any particular like, okay, we're pure Gracie, we're pure wrestling, and our goal is to be a stand-up fighter. But
Right.
ain't like, oh shoot, I'm done for now, when they grapple you and take you down.
Is it in Once Upon a Time in America that the Bruce Lee character, maybe even if off camera, says, I would cripple Muhammad Ali?
Yeah, I think he said that when he was doing this little lecture about the people,
Okay.
or somebody asked him that.
All right, so I might lose some friends over this, but I thought about that and I go, but did Bruce Lee say something like, don't try to box a boxer, don't try to kick with a kicker?
Yeah.
So if he absolutely had to go up against Muhammad Ali, if he cripples him, if he takes his legs out, Ali can't get to him.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But I guess that's a little bit sacrilegious to even imagine a scenario like that.
Well, but he said this. This is a quote. Now, I can't remember where it come from, but there was a boxer named Gene Tunney, I think, back in the old days.
Yeah.
And he had a senator. He had a son that was a senator. And somehow Bruce Lee met this son of this. And this Gene Tunney, I'm trying to think if he's back in what days. He fought the other guy. There was I don't remember but they were pretty notorious, probably in the 40s or whenever.
Okay.
But this Gene Tunney guy, Bruce had like his books, and that's another interesting thing. Ted said that Bruce had probably 200 or more books just on boxing and fencing in his days. You go, you think, can you imagine that many books exist? But he said that the Tunney guy asked Bruce, could you have beaten my dad? And Bruce Lee said, to tell the truth, I could beat anybody in the world. And I remember him saying that or reading that quote. So if he says that, that's the same as saying, hey, I could beat Muhammad Ali, because he said, I could beat anybody in the world. So some of that is not that far-fetched from him to say it.
Yeah. When I think when we hear stuff like that, right? I think then sometimes people latch onto it as like, okay, Bruce Lee said this, so this is gospel. They don't know the context in which he said it. You know what I mean? Right?
Yeah.
And so they're like, but Bruce Lee said this, so this is proof that whatever. You weren't there. You don't know what the situation was. So and he might have said something immediately after. Anyhow, so let's do another one. Oh, I had to tease you about the Bruce Lee socks. I mean,
what am I going to wear with my Game of Death shoes and suit? That's a size 6L. But hey, I'll admit I have one. You'd be surprised how many closet Game of Death suit people that are out there that won't tell you that because they think it's fun. But I'm like, I don't wear the thing around or anything. I mean, I don't want to accentuate the negative, but hey, it's kind of like being a 10-year-old with the Superman shirt on under your clothes, and you're thinking inwardly, hey, I got this going on. Yeah. But I just thought women, my experience with women, which anyway, they're not real big on Bruce Lee. You may have noticed in your own life. It's like, But so I like to do stuff to irritate them. You know, it's like
Uh,
I think I ordered those socks just to bug the hell out of my ex-wife. You know, and wear them with some of those glides. You know, where I got the
right.
Bruce Lee
Yeah,
glides with
yeah,
the
yeah,
gold
yeah, yeah.
shorts. So, okay, you ready to go over to the in-laws' house, honey? Well, oh, you're not
Okay.
gonna wear that. I go, well, why not? Yeah, they're brand new socks. They're clean.
Yeah.
What's wrong with that? You
Oh
said I
man.
should dress more casual. I'm following
All
your
right.
advice. So
Okay,
you
listen.
did.
Okay, so we're down to 10%. So let's make this the last one. The
Okay.
JKD of Ted Wong is an integrated system and can't be built upon another existing base nor fused into an existing structure. The cup must be totally empty. Break that down for me, elaborate on that, and we'll call it, and we'll wrap this up.
Okay. When I went to Ted Wong, I thought I knew Jeet Kune Do or knew maybe 80% of it.
Okay.
And that's after trying my own study, going to the concept, different stuff. So I thought that, but after, and I'd watched his video, with him and Richard. It was just
Yes.
very basic. I said,
Yeah.
okay, I probably know most of this. And it's like, once he started and gave me a demonstration, he said, do some footwork for me. I'm like, forward, no, you're too slow. You're too bit, you're off balance. You're this. I go, and then he starts doing it, moving in and out with that half beat where it's,
Yeah.
and I'm like, whoa. I'm like, well, you didn't do this on that video.
I call that the Ted, that half thing, I call that the Ted Wong footwork.
Yeah, and I'm like, I never heard of half beat footwork. He goes, show me your front hand lead. And I'm like throwing a jab. He goes, I know front hand lead. I'm like, well, you didn't show that on the video either. He goes, well, they got a script. This is what Bruce Lee taught me.
Right.
And I'm like, I don't know shit.
Yeah.
So I said, I'm just forgetting everything I know. Okay, step forward, back,
Right.
just very basic. I just like, hey, and that's where I started. And I felt really bad. Like I thought I was pretty good, or I go, man, I really suck. And now I just suck a little less.
Okay.
If that makes sense, so I'm not bragging on, but
Yeah.
I'm just saying that was the whole thing. You got the stance, the footwork, you start adding the punches, you add the kicks, you stick with your 7 pillars. I talk about the stance, the footwork, the distance control.
We're gonna do this again, and we're gonna focus on that 7 pillar thing because that's real good.
But I'm just saying that's all in all that. When you throw a punch, the 7 pillars, does it follow that? They're based on the axiomatic. So you start adding that when you got punching, kicking, footwork. Then you start adding faking, feinting, changing ranges. The 6 ranges come into effect. The different ways to do it offensively. Then different kinds of motion, stop, go, rhythm. It's like you're building a structure where every piece is interdependent on another piece. So you go, well, I think I like Ted's front hand lead. And you can't do it without the stance because the front hand lead starts in the stance, it ends, everything goes back to the stance.
Right.
And so it's the same thing that you can't just go, I think I'm going to take like Paul Vunak used to do this. He go, well, he had us put our own Jeet Kune Do together. Like, okay, I'm going to do an entry from Savat, an eye jab from Wing Chun, a wedge from Kali, an elbow from Muay Thai, and I'm going to do a takedown from Penjak Salat. He had us all creating our own stuff, and he said that's how Jeet Kune Do works. It's kind of like you put together different stuff, what works where. And in the Ted Wong Jeet Kune Do, no, you can't just pull out. There's, like Bruce Lee said, there's no such thing as an effective segment of totality. And that's the same thing with the Ted Wong system. And in closing, it's like Ted Wong's art was an integrated art, and it all was built, and everything, when you got something new from him, it fit because there was no contradiction. That's one of my favorite quotes. And I believe John Galt, the character, said it in Atlas Shrugged, and he said, the ideal man is he that is without contradiction. A cannot be A and non-A simultaneously. And it's like, hey, it's like, be that way in your martial arts and your life.
Yeah.
All
right. Okay. Let's end on that note, Bob Landers. This was fun.
Well, hey, I enjoyed it. I hope I didn't upset anybody because me and Lamar are really old buddies, talking about us looking alike,
Well, he hasn't yet responded to my invitations to come on the program with me. So
he's a funny guy. You should get him on here. He's got a lot of stories.
I
I don't agree with everything, but that he says, and You know, I've been hearing a lot of good stuff about the scene guy, so I'm actually going to look into it because I really haven't. So I'm like, I don't know what I think. And I don't even know him, so I don't have any personal opinion. It's just the guys I was talking to were, you know, so I'm like, man, I'm upset.
But that's what you got to do. You got to check it out for yourself.
That's really and I'm going to, because I've heard you talk good. I've heard Chris Kent, some different stuff. So, hey, I'm going to empty my cup, you know.
All right. Hey, cool. All right, man. Thanks again for doing this. I appreciate it.
Okay, I hope I don't get any hate mail or anything. Or
send it my way. Just send it my way. I'll defend you. No problem.
Hey, I've been in trouble my whole JKD career with people. You know, it's just like, you know what's funny about this, Art? Before we go, you know, you can hurt people and upset them more in Jeet Kune Do with the truth than you can lie about them.
That's a good one.
You know?
That's a good one. All right, man. All right. You take care. Okay.
You too. Thanks.
All right.
Bye.
Bye. All right. Bob Landers, I'm so glad that we were able to do that. All right, so that was episode number 83 of the Jeet Kune Do Dialogues with Bob Landers. Check him out on Facebook, Bob Landers, and also Bob Landers Jeet Kune Do. Let's see. So you know the deal. Feel free, share, like, comment. I'll edit everything, put it up on the final edit video on the YouTube, and then back here on Facebook. Follow me on Twitter at Dwight Woods, on Instagram at Dwight D Woods. I'm traveling this weekend, so there's no Jeet Kune Do Dialogues on Friday, but then there will be a special Monday episode with Stanley Brooks, who's another of the lost boys of combat JKD. That won't be live on Facebook. He and I will do that off camera, and then I'll post it next Tuesday. And next Friday, shoot, I didn't write it down. I can't remember who. I think it's Cameron Rico who will be on with me next Friday, but I have to confirm that. Anyhow, everybody, thanks for hanging out with me. I hope you had a good time with this, and I'll see you next time around. This is Dwight Woods, the Jeet Kune Do Rebel, signing off. You guys enjoy the rest of your day. Take care.